Wow, man. What a fantastic episode of Star Wars. Flashbacks, character development, Jacen Syndulla, more Republic incompetence, Clone Wars, freaking Anakin, man. We had it all today, and this is going to be such a fun video. So before we get into it, if you enjoyed last night's video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more daily Ahsoka content. I mean, we could be doing 2 videos a day, especially after this episode. But yeah, anyway, enough of the self-promoting. Let's get into this fantastic episode. So we start the episode with Hera, Jacen, Chopper, and the X-Wing pilots like Carson Teva, looking for Ahsoka and Sabine after Ahsoka's loss and Sabine's betrayal that we saw in the previous episode. After hearing a noise, Hera cautiously walks over and sees Huyang, holding Sabine's helmet that she lost, fighting Shin. Huyang then expresses his almost annoyance that they didn't stick together, the one thing that he told them to do. Then, boom, Shadow Warrior is the title card, and we are straight into it. Before we get into this, I'd just like to say Anakin looked amazing, and this was such a massive improvement from what we saw in Kenobi. You could choose to be that guy and nitpick every wrong detail, but honestly, in my opinion, there is really no need for this. Anakin tells Ahsoka that she still has a chance to live, and this is a major plotline for what we eventually see later on this episode, and I think it was done greatly, so thank you, Dave. Anakin then tells Ahsoka that she's not finished her training and ignites his lightsaber, ready to go, saying, or die. Ahsoka proceeds to say, "I will not fight you," a callback to the Rebels that even Anakin says, "I've heard that before." Man, this was just so cool. I've also heard a couple people say on Twitter and such that the callback was actually to Luke Skywalker saying it to Vader, because technically Ahsoka doesn't say that exactly, but it is very similar, but it could be interpreted either way. After a quick start to a small duel, we transition back to Hera. In this sequence, we get to hear Carson Teva mention Senator Organa, saying she can only cover them for so long. This was a great callback to Carrie Fisher, and she'll forever be missed in Star Wars, and may she really rest in peace. Then things really started to develop with Jacen, and we're finally really starting to understand how Jacen could have serious potential in the Force. Jacen, after getting his mum's attention, tells her to listen to the waves with him, saying he can hear the lightsabers. He can hear Anakin and Ahsoka fighting, and what I still believe to be the world between worlds, but more into that later. We finally got that mention in this episode, the one I've been waiting for since the first episode, and that being a name drop of the great Kanan Jarrus. My only gripe with this was it was Huyang mentioning it and not Hera, but it didn't bother me too much, Then, as Anakin would say, this is where the fun begins. Anakin and Ahsoka continue their duel, and man, this felt straight out of the prequels. It was fantastic, and you could really tell that the lightsaber training from Nick Gillard never left Hayden, man, so props to him. Ahsoka and Anakin banter back and forth, with Ahsoka saying, "You don't have that much left to offer," when Anakin replies, "I haven't taught you everything," then proceeds to shatter the floor below her, sending her to the Clone Wars era. I was hesitant when I found out a few days ago that Ariana Greenblatt was going to be playing a young Ahsoka, but wow, she really didn't disappoint. She looked fantastic, especially in the first part of the flashbacks. I felt that maybe she looked a little too young when it came to the Siege of Mandalore, but that's just a small gripe. I mean, she did a fantastic job. But there he was, man. Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker in his armor. It was just beautiful. Took me straight back to my childhood. And seeing live action clones again was awesome. We then proceed to see Ahsoka's care that she always had for the clones, getting emotional when a dying clone puts his hand on hers. As we know from the Clone Wars, Ahsoka always had a special connection with her clones, even to the point where a battalion painted their helmets to look like her in Clone Wars Season 7. Anakin then proceeds to lecture Ahsoka about the war, mentioning Obi-Wan's training of him being a peacekeeper. But in the current times, he has to teach Ahsoka to be a warrior, a fighter. After leading his troops back out into the fight, we get such a fantastic shot of Anakin turning into Vader in the distance. And you just know it is going to be all over TikTok with edits because it is genuinely that good. But that was the end of Flashback 1. Bringing it back to present time, Hera and everyone else continue to try and locate Ahsoka, even though it seems like it's a lost cause. Hera then asks Huyang about Ahsoka's master, after he had just mentioned that she was tenacious like him. Huyang then proceeds to describe Anakin as just intense. Bang, straight after Flashback 2, the Siege of Mandalore. As we know, without Anakin this time, we get to see young Ahsoka in her element years after that first mission we just saw. She is fearless now with her 2 blue lightsabers. She takes out Maul's Mandalorian super commandos with such ease. And to make it even better, we get to see a live action Rex. Voiced by Tamora Morrison, Rex looked amazing, and I can't explain how awesome it was to finally get him in live action. Anakin then enters the frame, expressing that he wasn't here, but she's come a long way, calling her a warrior like he's trained her to be. Ahsoka then questions Anakin, where he proceeds to ask her if this is what it's all about, telling her she's learnt nothing, telling her that they're going back to the beginning, when he then pulls out his crimson red lightsaber and repeats the live or die quote he said previously. Anakin is in full Vader mode, and he bests Ahsoka, throwing her back into the world between worlds. This was so cool, and I loved it so much. Hayden fits straight back into this role, and it was so fantastic. I wish I could just sit here and praise his performance all day, man, but I'd say that's pretty normal for a prequel fan like myself. After throwing her back into the world between worlds, the fight continues. We then get another fantastic shot of Anakin switching from himself to Vader, telling Ahsoka that she lacks conviction. After a compelling fight, Anakin smacks Ahsoka's lightsaber out of her hand and tells her it's time to die. After avoiding a strike, Ahsoka then takes Anakin's lightsaber, holding it to his neck. In this moment, we actually get to see Ahsoka with Sith eyes for a brief moment before she throws Anakin's lightsaber into the void and tells him that she chooses to live. Anakin then backs away, blinks, and his Sith eyes vanish. Then he proceeds to tell Ahsoka, "There's hope for you yet." Lightning then strikes in the background, turning Ahsoka around, and Anakin is gone. Sinking in the world between worlds, but rising in real life, Ahsoka rises up from the water, saved by one of Carson's X-Wing pilots, and is rushed into the Ghost. So, what did I think of all of this? I loved it. It felt quick, but when you're enjoying something, it always does. Hayden did a fantastic job, some of the best we've seen of him since Revenge of the Sith. Ariana also did a great job at playing young Ahsoka. Part of me wanted them to still use Ashley Eckstein's voice, but Ariana's was close enough, so it didn't really bother me. Seeing Rex and live-action clone troopers again was a highlight for sure, but seeing Anakin in his Clone Wars attire took the crown for me. Moving on, after getting some rest, we come back to Ahsoka and see something I felt was wrong to see. I'm not sure if it was just me, but I felt like seeing Ahsoka without her headpiece almost felt as if we were looking at a naked Ahsoka, but funny nonetheless. Huyang tells Ahsoka that she's been out for one rotation, but it could have been longer if not for Jacen. But Huyang also reveals to Ahsoka that Sabine is nowhere to be found. Ahsoka comes out of the ship wearing what looks like a white cardigan, and as I was watching, I couldn't put it together if that was Dave showing that she was now Ahsoka the White, and I was a little bit concerned at first, but from what we saw later, we know that she was slowly transitioning, but yeah, I was a bit worried. Ahsoka, greeted then by Jacen, thanks him. Jacen told Ahsoka that he could hear her fighting, and asked who it was she was fighting. Hera interrupts, trying to distract Jacen into going with Huyang to look at Ahsoka's ship. It's pretty apparent that Hera doesn't want Jacen to be a Jedi, but I'll delve into that subject in another video because it is really interesting when you think about it. Hera asks Ahsoka where Sabine is, and Ahsoka, then holding the map, uses psychometry, something we've seen before with Cal Kestis in the Fallen Order and Survivor games. Basically, what it is, it's the ability of acquiring information about people or events associated with an object solely by touching it. Ahsoka does this and finds out about Sabine's choice, or betrayal, however you want to put it. Ahsoka tells Hera that they took her with them, and Hera reminds Ahsoka that it means that she is still alive. But Ahsoka is still hesitant, and says herself that it fears it's not going to be so simple to get to her. Carson Teva proceeds to interrupt, telling Hera that the fleet is finally coming, but not for the right reasons. We then get to see Mon Mothma again, basically telling Hera that she's at a dead end, and requests her and Ahsoka to return to Coruscant immediately, also informing her that the Senate is deciding whether she should be stripped of her role or not due to her disobeying command, and taking a fleet with them to help Ahsoka. After their frustrating conversation, Ahsoka comes in and tells them that she knows how to get Sabine, and they set off. That being the Purrgil. At this point, we really start to see a changed Ahsoka. She looks more positive, and in her white attire, she looks amazing. I'm going to delve into this in another video because it shows exactly why people jumped the gun on Rosario when it came to how Ahsoka was betrayed, and I'm so happy people are finally starting to realize what was set up. But in come the Purrgil. The shots that they did for this scene was just out of this world. It felt like I was watching a big screen Star Wars movie again, and it was just done so elegantly and beautifully. I could genuinely talk about this shot for hours. Ahsoka and Huyang approach the larger Purrgil, and Ahsoka gets out onto the wing of the ship. And God, does this outfit on Ahsoka look amazing. It looks so spot on. We officially have Ahsoka the White. The Rebel fleet approaching Carson Teva. He tries to distract them, while Ahsoka tries to execute her plan. Like I said before, I want to delve into this incompetence from the New Republic in another video, but my god are they annoying. Moving back to Ahsoka and the Purrgil, we see Ahsoka use another Force ability, Beast Control, like we've seen her previously use in Tales of the Jedi. A perfect setup, by the way. Like what Ezra did. Ahsoka wants to use the Purrgil to get to the unknown regions and find them all. The Purrgil opens its mouth, allowing Ahsoka's ship to rest in its mouth as it makes the jump into hyperspace. End of episode. First off, I just want to thank Dave Filoni and everybody that's worked on this series because, my god, has it brought back my love for Star Wars. The last 2 episodes of this show have been practically flawless, and I'm so invested in these characters and the storyline. Ahsoka's character development in this episode was brilliant and couldn't have been executed any better, and seeing Hayden and the clones brought me right back to my childhood. Nostalgia aside, Dave has done yet another fantastic piece of storytelling, and the way he's transitioned his animated work into live action is just impeccable. Every episode leaves us wanting more and keeps us speculating non-stop till the next episode. Character-wise, I'm so invested in particularly Jacen, and that might be my bias towards Kanan, but it's so refreshing to have a character like him. Next episode, I'm sure, is going to be another whirlwind, and I'll be making videos non-stop till then talking about this episode. I need to stop talking because I could go on for hours, but if you want to see more of me, make sure to like this video and subscribe. But until then, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Thank you, Dave.